Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 7 here in the All the Mods 9 to the Skies playthrough. I'm Ender. If you haven't been here before, welcome to the channel. It's great to have you here. In between the last episode and this episode, I did a bunch of stuff. I recorded it, but after I was done with it, I realized I was doing a lot of building things by like putting it into the pattern grid and then crafting the thing and showing, and the recipes getting put into the crafters and stuff, and that was interesting when I did it the first episode. But I've been doing work with the refined storage thing for like 3 episodes in a row now, setting up storage here, setting up crafters, setting the system itself up, and I don't really want to be doing the same thing over and over and over. So I decided I'm just going to show you the things I built, and we're going to get started on something much cooler today. So this first setup, I made some igneous extruders and some flux hammers and some flux sieves and set them up. So let me show you how they're set up here. The igneous extruders are both up here. They have lava in between them because they share that lava. This one has packed ice, this one has blue ice, and this one has a magma block underneath. The reason for that is this is the setup to make deep slate. Packed ice on one side, magma block underneath, lava on another side, and it makes makes deep slate from that. Then on this side, the blue ice and the lava next to it is the configuration to make the igneous extruder produce blackstone. The pipes are on either side, just because I set it up the way I did the orientation because I thought it made it look cool. It was like a little machine, very compact. And then these are on the side and they pump it into the hammer here. It's because I needed the top free for this flux compactor block. So the way this works is they make their respective blocks, deep slate or blackstone. They get piped down into here. They get hammered down and turned into their crushed versions, which are then sifted through a diamond mesh and sent into the ender chest, which is then imported into our refined storage system. This up here exports the pebbles that we get back in. They go into the compactor, which quickly compacts them back into blackstone or deep slate for that side, and it fills this back up. And so we have a very slow input of blocks from here, but we're actually managed to keep up with the pace of this doing the hammering and the sifting. Well, almost. Every time we do a sifting, we have a whole block of blacks or a whole stack of blackstone in here. We could make it go faster by having more upgrades here, but we just set this up, and so this is the first netherite that we've been able to get. So if we look in here, the main thing we're getting from those is, and I just sent this up not too long ago, I already have over 2,000 ancient debris to make netherite. I also have over 1K of uranium now, even after I processed a whole bunch of it and used it. And we get some platinum as well, which we're using right now to make some things. So they're just processing away. They're using a lot of power. So what I was using is I used the uranium from that to get started with bigger reactors. And you can see I have a ton of those blocks in my inventory right now because it's what I'm currently working on up here at my power plant. So this is just a starter reactor that I set up, and I'm going to show you how it all works. It's a multi-block that you make from casings and glass and all the different pieces. The quest book really explains really well how to build these. If you're playing yourself and you want to follow it, that's really, really helpful. I have a chest here full of uranium and then one for cyanite. And these access ports, one is on input, one's on output. So the fuel goes in, waste comes out. Back here, I have a little kind of tricky setup that I found on Reddit. Snow Wolf, I think it's Snow Wolf 420, maybe? Probably. It's just the person I found on Reddit. I don't think they have any content, but this is a real simple setup that shows you how this works, or it regulates how this reactor runs. And I'll show you up here what it's doing before I explain that. In here, we have fuel in here. it is being heated and it's creating power. Right now we're on a down cycle, so the power is not being generated. So our power is being drained out of here at, varying, but we're averaging like 20,000 FE per tick, or RF per tick, however you want to refer to it as nowadays. So this is draining out. The way I have this set up back here, and this was a genius idea, I have to say. There is a controller there and one over there, and they're right next to the pistons. This one says when the fuel level is above 90%, send us, or it's, I have to look at the diagram, but this one, when I have my fuel over 90%, it turns the control rods to 0 or to 100%, where they're at now. So 100% meaning it's creating 0 power. This one, once the power drops below 20%, so in this case, our reactor can hold 28 million, 20% of that is 5.6 million. So when this drops to 5.6 million or 5.7 million, which is getting there close, it's going to fire off this piston. And what that'll do is this will move over. And if we look here, this one, it says set it to 0. So that means when we run out of power, or we're starting to, we're at 20%, fire off this piston, the redstone block will move, the pulse here will set the control rods to 0, and then the redstone block will sit there. So it just happened there. So now our control rods are set at 0. We're back to producing power, and this is climbing at 26.4 thousand RF per tick. And when this gets up to 90%, which will happen pretty quick with this small of a reactor, what will happen is this one says set the control rods to 100. So when we get to 90%, this will fire. It'll move a redstone block here. It'll set the control rods to 100%, which is effectively turning the reactor off without shutting it down. It just means that no fuel is being used and no heat is being produced. You're standing in a very precarious place, sir. I don't think you should stay there. It's gonna automate our production, and instead of it turning the power at the same percentage where it might flip back and forth, you can see it kind of did there a little bit. If it had been doing that while trying to regulate it, the power would have gone on and off and on and off, which could have caused problems. This means it will stay this way until we drop below 20% again. So it can do all the fluctuations right there at the 90% mark at once. Doesn't matter. 20%, you'll switch back. Super simple, super genius. I love it. So this thing will continue to produce this power at 26,000 RF per tick as long as we need it. And if we start drawing more power than that, we can increase this reactor. What I want to try to do right now, I just was thinking of some different blocks we could use, and I was looking around. And right now I have diamonds in here. I think I need to get a better pickaxe. That's right. It's time for me to finally move away from stone pick. Hi, stone pick. And I'm going to just leave those out for now. I wanted to try using platinum. I want to see what kind of effect this has on our power using that as a moderator. So, one line. I'm going to have to wait to see the power drain out again before I can actually see it. It's going to take a little while. In the meantime, get rid of these guys. Oh, I accidentally broke my fuel container. I actually set up the trap for the the llama and the traders, but I only did it on that other platform, and so now it's too far away. I'm going to have to make another one up here. Let's do that. I don't think I showed you that on camera anyway. So the trader carpets are real simple. You just make one of these, and we'll grab a little bit of glass. Of course, my inventory is full. Why wouldn't it be? And while we're doing that, we'll sleep. We'll come back up to our power plant. And we'll just set up this carpet. And we'll surround it with glass. I like to do a little 2x2 just so that way the things don't get knocked out of it. And so now if a trader spawns while I'm up here, it will land on that carpet instead of just wherever the heck it wants. Okay, so we're about to drop down here below the 5.6K mark. Okay, it fires back up. That's less efficient than it was. The platinum is a lot more expensive than diamond. I'll probably look around online and learn exactly what moderators and other blocks that I can use in here. I really want to do a passive reactor. I don't want to get into the actively cooled one, at least not at this time. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put diamond around. Maybe it was because there was air blocks in there. Let's see what half diamond, half platinum does. Yeah, it's still the same. So the platinum and the diamond don't have a difference. But I will say having nothing in here makes a difference, because if I take all of them out and then I just cap it off and I just have air, then it only produces, I think it was 20. So having the diamond or something in there definitely has an effect. Again, I need to look up and learn what different moderator blocks do and coolant blocks and all of that. But for now, having 26,000 RF per tick with this small of a structure is fine. I also have built a bunch more of the casings, and I can make more fuel rods and stuff. It's just the bigger you build it, the more fuel it uses. But since we're channeling the fuel directly into producing more uranium, it's kind of a non-issue. It will just keep making power like crazy for us. Oops, that was not what I meant to do. And so, okay, it's online. It just shut off. And now it's going back down. So we're going to let that go. What this power means is that we can continue to expand this and make more and more power as we need. And I have not been expanding the production here because I just didn't have enough power for it. So like, I don't think I even have all the upgrades in these. I'm running with lower upgrades because I couldn't really afford to do it. I can put more upgrades in. I can get these processing faster and get more resources and just really ramp everything up. One thing I want to do before I get too far ahead of myself is I'm going to dismantle this and move it up to the power plant section. In the power plant area that I made, I'm not just going to do bigger reactors. I'm going to have all kinds of power. Having extra power, even if it's not as efficient, is fine. It's not going to cause any problems. Plus, it'll be fun to use this area to make a whole bunch of different types of reactors. And there are even better ones than this down the road. But that's what we're going to do. So we're going to move that up to here. And then we can think that what we're going to do with the lava production is I'm going to set this up to work through an ender tank so that I can have this be pulling lava out through the ender network. And I will put the fluid production in its own place I want to set up fluid production using importing like I do with this, but on a larger scale. And then that way I can have our network exporting things to the thing. So I probably will work on getting the wireless network set up for this so that we can have a place where we're importing fluids in its own central place. So that way we can add more fluids as we need them. And then we'll have another connection to the refined storage network in the power plant section, and it can be pumping lava where we need it. Does that make sense? So there's a couple different projects we need to do. We need to move the things from here out. We need to work on making the network receivers for the refined storage. We need to start moving these things to their homes up in the base and start increasing their speed. So I'm going to start with getting what I need to make refined storage have wireless network access. Working on setting up netherite automation, and I came across something with the refined storage processing that I haven't shown you before, so I wanted to share it. When you're processing ancient debris into netherite scrap, if you cook it, you just get one. If you do some other processes, you can get chances at more. There are some advanced processes where you can get even more. Actually, I think that was a disassembly process, but there are some where you get one and a chance to get more. This process is right now the best one I have. Ancient debris gives me 2 scrap and slag, but the slag is a chance. So what you do when you have that recipe, if you want to set it up to make it work properly, if you leave it like this, since this is just a chance, it's going to get stuck in the crafter for a while because it will be processing it. It won't get the rich slag back. It'll think that it's still waiting for it to get put back in the system. So all you do is you right click, or no, I'm sorry, it's left click, shift left click. There we go. On the rich slag. So now the process says ancient debris, you get 2 back. The rich slag will come back too, but it's not going to be waiting for it. Actually, I think I already made that. So now I have 2 of them. No big deal. So now we're going to go in here and we're going to switch these out, put this in. And so when I go and craft some scrap, let's craft 10. It's going to be here. It's got, this one is still in there because that was the one that was waiting on it. So it's now processing 5 of these. It's getting netherite scrap back in. And if we look, we might get some slag back, but it doesn't matter if we get it or not, because if we get it, it's going to come in here and it's going to go back in through the importer. We'll definitely get the scrap because it's 100% chance. And that means it'll finish that process and it'll finish it out in the crafter. Does that make sense? I hope it does. This is the best way to set it up for right now. We do have other ways I think we can get more out of our ancient debris to get even more netherite. But for now, that's fine. We're getting tons of it in. It's still piling up as we talk. Like when I started, it was at 2, and now I'm at 3.2 thousand. You know, we're not going to be hurting for it, so it's not a big deal. But you can see we did get the 10 scrap in, so that's the way to set it up when you have a process where there's a chance, or at least there's one way to do it. There are other ways to do it too, but this is what I like. You put it in so that the guaranteed output is there, the chance output comes out. Now the problem is you couldn't use that if you were going to do slag, though technically I guess you could. Let's say we were trying to use that process for making rich slag, and we wanted to do it with ancient debris. Let's go in here. We're going to select that recipe. We're going to go to the ancient debris one. We'll do this. What we'll do is we'll remove this. We say when we get it, put in ancient debris, we get a rich slag. Actually, I guess that still wouldn't work because it wouldn't keep putting ancient debris in to get the rich slag. So I don't know how you would do it if you wanted to automate a process where you have a chance at getting a second item. I don't know that there is a way to do it properly. I think that what I would end up doing is just setting it up so that if I do need rich slag, I would set it up so that there's an exporter that goes into an induction smelter, putting ore in, and the rich slag would get put into a drawer, and it would shut the system down when we reach to a certain point. That's what I would do. But that's not what we're doing here. We just wanted the ancient debris so we can make netherite. And the reason we want netherite is because we need it to make network receivers. And now we have the ability to do that. All right, I did the thing. I taught it to make network transmitters, receivers, and network cards that required the netherite that I showed you I was making. And basically, let's go to refined storage here so we can see it. We need a transmitter, a receiver, and a network card for each connection that we're going to make. This network transmitter, this one doesn't have anything in it. I'll use that one for the next connection I make. But this one has a network card that is linked to the spot at those coordinates. Those coordinates are up here at our power plant, where I have a network receiver. Because this network receiver is linked through that network card to the other section, and they're both loaded, this crafting grid behaves as though it's connected to our system. So I can now see everything in our storage. I can also, if I wanted to, set up an export. So let's go make an exporter. That's not what I want. I want one of those. We already have the cable. And let's grab uranium. This needs to be set to... Every time you set up a new grid, you got to set it up the way that you want it. So we're going to just grab this. We're going to put an exporter there. Now this is connected to this same network. So if I put this here and I tell it that this is exporting uranium, right now we have, let's do it this way. We have 0 uranium in there. Let's put our uranium back in here. And we'll see it is exporting uranium into this chest. That means if I set up a system anywhere on this network where uranium is being processed and imported, it will automatically put it out to here and produce and keep powering our reactor. I can also put in an importer. And we can set that on this chest. We connect the cable to it. And now the cyanite that comes into here will get exported or imported back into our system in here. And we don't have to worry about that chest filling up. So now, as long as we're producing uranium, this will continue making power. So what we need to do is set up a system for processing the raw uranium into uranium. So we need to have a mechanical squeezer that squeezes the uranium to make the raw uranium ore, to go into a purification chamber, to go into all of this and get processed into uranium ingots. And I'm going to set up a separate system for uranium. And I think that instead of putting it in ore processing, actually no, I think I'm going to put it in a place where I'm going to put all of our ore processing, because I can have it exported into this system. But I want to have, the goal in the end is to have each ore will have its own section for processing. So as long as we are getting the raw stuff in, it will get processed, they'll get turned into ingot. So we need to make a setup to do that. I think I have everything there. I can just craft it all. So I'm going to get it crafted, and then we'll get back together and put it together on camera. Final step in the process has been completed. I've made a bunch of machines. I have water down here. It's pumped up into the electrolytic separator, which produces hydrogen and oxygen. Dumps the hydrogen, oxygen goes into here. Purification chamber uses uranium, and all we have to do to turn this system on is set up the input. It's going to start pulling in uranium and processing it into uranium. I think it's clusters is the first step. Clumps. So this is just set up to create uranium ore using a crafting upgrade. And we have taught the system how to make uranium ore from uranium ore chunks. Pretty simple. We may automate that later on and make it so those uranium ore clumps are automatically processed using a flux compactor or something. But for now, that works. The clumps get put into here, which get crushed down into dirty uranium dust, which is then enriched into the uranium dust, which is then processed into uranium, which is then imported back into our system. And you can see it's not in there, and that's because it is automatically being exported up here into this chest. So we have, actually, we won't be able to see it just yet. I have to, on our map, chunk load some areas here. So we want, oh, am I out of chunk loads? Okay, now we have enough to do it. On a server, you couldn't really do that because there'd be lots of people doing this, but it's just me here, little old me, and I will keep going until I break my world. But now this is loaded. So if we go back to our power plant, that's all working in the background there, and we can see here, probably wait for a few seconds, we'll probably get more uranium in. And there we go. So now we have a big reactor, it's producing a ton of power, which is running this machine here, which is producing uranium for us. And then that uranium is getting sent off to ore processing, which is processing our uranium ore into more uranium ingots, which then goes to our power plant, which processes the uranium into more power, completing the cycle. And we now have these areas set up, so we can start moving our ore processing up here. So the way I envision it for now is setting up multiples of these. I think there's 10 different ores in the game at the moment. So we'll have 10 of these setups. They'll all have their own systems. They'll all export things, and they'll all process ore independently. And then that means we can just throw the ore chunks into them and keep processing it and keep us stocked up with ores. And for now, we can access these at each of our places because I've placed these at all of the things. But eventually, we'll set up wireless access to it as well, meaning we'll be able to access it from anywhere inside the base eventually. Well, for now, we don't need that. For now, we have a grid wherever we need it. We'll get to that. But the next thing I want to work on is finishing up moving this, but I think that's going to have to wait till the next episode. We've been going for quite a while today. But we have the power we need, so now we can move all of this to where it needs to be and really start throwing some power at it and really get some crazy, crazy amounts of resources. I hope you enjoyed watching our episode today, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.